Hi, I'm Laurie Cook. I'm an Assistive Technology Specialist with the Linking Learning to Careers project, which is provided through VocRehab Vermont.
And I'm Rachel Knapp, also an Assistive Technology Specialist through VocRehab Vermont with the Linking Learning to Careers program. So we're here today to talk about assistive technology as it relates to employment and higher education for transition youth with disabilities.
I have a little trouble with the slides. Patience, please.
There we go. Okay, so today's objectives. We are going to discuss various tools to assist with finding, keeping, and being successful in job and volunteer positions. Discuss tools available for youth seeking training programs or post-secondary education opportunities, and gain information on community resources for equipment loans and possible funding sources. This kind of thing always happens when you're working with new
Especially
technology.
when we're talking about assistive technology.
So what is AT? Assistive technology is defined as any item or piece of equipment that makes your life easier, no matter your age, situation, or challenges. There's a few other definitions that we like to throw out there. It could be any strategy or technique or tool that helps people live, learn, work, or play.
The VFN facts sheet for assistive technology defines assistive technology, or AT, as any type of device or service that helps a person with a disability be more independent at home, at work, at school, or in the community. So you can see how those overlap.
And there are many forms of assistive technology that can help individuals to work around barriers while always focusing on their strengths. So we often look at what we call the tech spectrum. This goes from no tech all the way to high tech. So if you can see on our list, we'll start with no tech. So AT can be no tech. That looks like some examples could be schedule changes, item relocation, seating arrangements, using desk lamps instead of fluorescent overhead lights. So it's things that can be changed without really using a device or a piece of technology.
And then low-tech AT can be, examples are eyeglasses, step stools, pencil grips, walkers, noise-canceling headphones, grabbers, or as Rachel likes to call it, the claw, magnifiers, colored transparency overlays for reading, and adding bump dots on remote control buttons. So several of these we're going to show you as we go further through today's webinar.
And then high tech kind of encompasses that definition that we all think of when we hear the word technology. It has some of the more electronic or complex tech items. So some examples would be special purpose computers, speech to text software, screen or document readers, communication devices, wheelchairs, switches, and convertible workstations.
So some considerations. These are just things that we've run across. Rachel and I work with transition age youth throughout the state of Vermont. That is the only population we serve. And so we're in and out of high schools and colleges quite frequently. So these are things that we hear from faculty and staff. We hear that youth are unaware of their own strengths and challenges, and that they're unprepared to advocate for themselves in a college or employment environment. That's a big one. So that takes a lot of practice. It's not always to talk about our strengths, because sometimes it can feel like we're being boastful, but it needs to be practiced so that you can do it well.
Mm-hmm. And also transitioning from high school to college or employment can be really difficult because there are so many changes and so many new experiences. So having an awareness and knowledge of strengths and challenges is really important, and how it'll help with navigating all of those changes and situations.
And lastly, for considerations, it is important that youth with disabilities are prepared, and most importantly, that they feel prepared to take on the next chapter of their lives. Having a good understanding of strength and challenges is key for this.
So we have a list of some must-haves for transition success. As we kind of addressed earlier, self-advocacy and self-disclosure come from having knowledge of strengths and weaknesses. And so once they have that knowledge, the next step is to learn how to advocate for themselves and see how that can help them.
Sorry, folks, I'm just realizing the typo there. Be proactive. Don't wait until the last minute. That's a trap that we often get caught in, whether we're talking about work or school, or whether it's just doing the dishes before mom and dad get home. If you're being proactive, you're taking care of it in advance, not being reactive and taking care of something in the moment when it's an emergent situation.
Mm-hmm. Next is understanding your disability. So whatever that may look like, depending on the person's disability, but knowing what that disability is and how that impacts their life is very important.
Know your learning style. Some people are kinetic learners. They need to be up and moving, or their hands need to be moving. Janice earlier was talking about the fidget toy. That's a great example. That's a great tool for somebody who is that kinetic learner. But there are many different learning styles, so it's important to know yours and know how you're going to learn best. If you're starting a new job and you need to take notes when you're getting your instructions, that's fine. You just need to present that to your employer or trainer. They're not going to know unless you tell them that that's how you learn best.
Mm-hmm. And next is ask for what you need. I can't speak for Laurie, but I think that this is one of the most challenging tasks for some of our youth to do. Kind of as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of changes, a lot of new faces, a lot of new experiences. So having the courage to step up and ask for what you need can be intimidating. However, it's key for success.
A regional manager in one of the offices that I work with says you never know what you're going to get when you ask for something. You may or may not get it, but you're guaranteed if you don't ask, you don't get. Know what accommodations work best for you. So if you are on a 504 or IEP, review those accommodations and see what's going to apply to your world of work or further education. And we're going to talk more about it, but those are documents that you're going to want to keep to discuss with disability services reps at the college or institution that you are going to.
Next is be familiar with your tools before employment or college. It's important if you're going to start using a new tool, and you want to be able to know the functions of that tool and how it's going to relate to your learning before you start the new job or before you go to school.
Right. You don't want to learn two things at once. You don't want to have to learn the new job and the SmartPen at the same time, or whatever tool you're using. Know it in advance, and it will make that transition period easier for you in the long run. Explore technology that capitalizes on your strengths and circumvents your specific challenges. Help me out here, Rachel. That's a big one to explain.
So, as we all know, technology is huge. There's there's all kinds of tools, strategies, techniques, everything you can imagine. And so kind of like we touched on earlier, it's really important to find things that promote your strengths and that are going to help you succeed in that way.
Yeah, well done.
Okay.
So we did include a number of specific devices or tools that we wanted to show you. They do vary on the tech spectrum. And if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them up. We will see them and get them answered for you.
So the first device on our examples of AT is a product called TouchPoints. These, as you can see from the picture, they're devices that can be worn on the wrist. They're not limited to wearing on your wrists. You can take them off the wristbands, put them in your pockets, your socks, or hold them in your hands. What these devices do is they send off vibrations in an alternating pattern, and they're there to trigger you to calm. So they have a number of different what's what I'm looking for?
Settings?
Yeah, they have a number of different settings. So you can have a setting that will help you with anger management, sleep and meditation, and focus. So depending on what you want to use these devices for, you would set them to that setting, and then when you could practice them morning and night, you can practice them in the time of need, but all you need to do is touch the button on both devices and they'll start vibrating in their alternating pattern and hopefully help you with your need.
A couple of things we've learned about touch points is that if you do practice morning and night, they recommend 10 to 15 minutes, both ends of the day, and then you just keep the devices with you. It's almost, it's a comfort to have them. Just knowing they're there can sometimes help people a little bit, even without using them. You know, it's always great when you know you have a tool in your kit that you can use at any moment.
The next device on our list is called the ZoomX. This is a device for those who have a visual impairment. It's a portable video magnifier, and it allows you to enlarge any sort of text in front of you. So if you, as it shows on the image, somebody's looking at the ingredients on some sort of pill bottle, and the ZoomX is enlarging the words. It can take a photo and you can send it and file share, or you can just use it as needed. You can scroll right along with like a book or a document that you're reading. And it's great for, like, if you need to sign your name and need to find the line where you sign your name, or any small text that's hard to see.
Next on our list, these are really popular, SmartPens. So there are many manufacturers of SmartPens. Neo is one. LiveScribe is probably the most popular manufacturer of SmartPens that we see. The SmartPen shown in the picture is a LiveScribe 3. So how these pens work is that they have a camera in the nib, in the point of it, and depending upon which model you go with, it records the conversation either to the pen or to a smartphone or tablet. So if you are in class or you're in a meeting with your supervisor and you want to make sure that you get everything, you have to use a special notebook for the SmartPens to work. And you would hit the record button when you start taking notes. When you're done, you hit the stop button with the pen nib, and then you not only have your notes as you've written them, but you have an actual audio file of the notes. So that is a really useful tool for anybody, whether it's somebody just transitioning into the world of work, a new job, a student that has a hard time taking notes in the classroom. I can see some people taking this to their doctor's office to make sure they get everything that the doctor says and they don't miss anything. So LiveScribe is the most popular one that we use. The one that's shown on the page runs about $179. And I would tell you to always price shop. Amazon isn't always the best deal, but it can be. So go to the manufacturer's website and also check Amazon. The notebooks can come in a 4-pack, and it's about $24 for the package of notebooks. So.
Next we have scanning pens. Again, there's several types of scanning pens that are out there. What primarily these devices do is they will scan text and they can read it aloud, they can define words, really depends on what you need them for. These could be used in a classroom for sure, but thinking about the workplace, if somebody's maybe working in a warehouse and they're doing like some safety training, it might be important to have a scanning pen to scan over words, and then they could figure out, you know, what they mean and how that applies to their job. They can connect to an Android or iOS, and they can also connect to a computer and be used as a digital highlighter.
Smart notebooks. So conversely to the SmartPens, the real technology lies in this notebook. So what is pictured is the Rocket Wave, which is made by the Rocketbook company. There are tons of smart books out there. This particular one is about $30 online. You have to use specific pens with them. Friction pens, you can get them in any store. But the beauty of these notebooks is that you can create, when you set it up, you're going to use your app. You can take notes on this notebook, and there's a QR scan code on every page. So when you, using the app, take a picture of it, it is going to send that file to wherever you designate you want it to. And I think there are 6 options that you can set up in advance. You can send it to a Google Drive, you can send it to your teacher's email, you can send it to your parents' email, whatever the case may be. And this one is particularly enjoyed or appreciated by transition age students because it's got the cool factor. And that is, if you look at the picture of the notebook, there are circles on it. This is called the Rocket Wave notebook, because when you have filled it all up and you're bummed because you spent $30 on a notebook and it's all full, you can put your notebook in the microwave and put a cup of water in those circles. In 30-second increments, you're going to basically microwave your notebook, and it will erase the ink that is there as long as you have used those friction pens. And friction pens come in markers and all sorts of different writing utensils, so it's pretty cool. And you can microwave and reuse this notebook 5 times. The covers are they're stiffer than a regular notebook, so it's more durable than what you would typically buy off the shelf at a office supply store.
So our next slide, we've featured some study apps. These are apps that can go on to your phone or your tablet, and they help with studying or organization. And so first we'll talk about Quizlet. It's a mobile web-based study app that allows students to study information, and it has learning tools and learning games.
What's really cool about Quizlet is your teacher can create flashcards or quizzes and push them out to a class, or you can, instead of creating your own questions and answers that you want to study, you can just search for a specific topic and use other people's card sets. And you can also access your card sets from any computer just by going online.
And then you can share your card sets with others.
Yeah.
Next is flashcards. This is an app that allows you to create your own set of flashcards. You just add a term and a definition. You can even add an image, and once your flashcard set is complete, you can study, and also you can share it with friends.
My Study is another one. It's similar to a paper planner, except it's better. You can rotate schedules, assignments. You can keep track of your exams, and it can be put on any smart device or tablet.
Next, we have Khan Academy. Khan Academy is free. You can learn anything. You can download practice exercises, quizzes, tests, and you can get instant feedback and step-by-step hints. It's a great learning aid, and you can follow along with whatever subject or whatever lesson you're learning in school at that time, and you can practice at your own pace.
Khan Academy is known for its excellent video tutorials. And then Photomath, which is my personal favorite. If Photomath had been around when I was in school, I would probably not be here presenting today because I would be a doctor. So Photomath is an app that you can use on your smartphone. You can take a picture of any math problem, whether it's handwritten and needs to be written neatly, obviously, or whether it is computer-generated text. You take a picture of it, and not only will Photomath solve the problem for you, but it will show you every single step that it went through to solve the problem. So I don't typically recommend that students use this while they're in the classroom with their teacher there as a resource. I would tell you, if your teacher's there, ask your teacher, get the step-by-step instructions from them and the support that you need from them. But if you're home and it's 9 o'clock at night and you're trying to get your homework done and you just don't remember how to do a certain equation, you can use this and then follow the step-by-step plan to really learn how to do it and not just get the answers.
And Photomath will explain, if you take it one step further, it will give an explanation of the steps in solving as well.
Yeah. There's a calculator feature too. You can input equations using the calculator feature if you don't want to use the camera on your device to take a picture of an equation. Before we go further, I just want to say that is just the tip of the iceberg that's out there for study apps. Really, the options are endless. So if you're thinking about doing something using a study app, you can go to your Google Play Store, your App Store, your whatever it is that you use, and just search study apps, and you will be amazed by the amount of results you get.
So next we have a list of time management tools. Again, this is just a few of what's out there. First, we have our Google Calendar on the Google Drive. A lot are familiar. It's accessible through your desktop, laptop, tablet, smartphone.
You got it.
Yeah.
Nudge Me is an app that you can set up to send you reminders. So some people will set up reminders on their device, and then it goes off and they ignore it. So Nudge Me, what it'll do is it'll send you a text message with a reminder, and it will keep nudging you until you get the job done.
Mm-hmm. A visual timer. There's a picture of one on your screen. So these are devices that show how much time has lapsed. So you set it for a certain amount of time, and then you can see, how much time has gone by, how much time is left. It can help with maybe some anxiety that comes with being timed. There's a lot of uses
or knowing that you only have so much time to get a job done.
Yeah.
It can be counterproductive too. So you need to know the student or the employee that you're working with if this is an appropriate use for them. I once worked with a young student who had a job that lasted an hour, and she had to know. She had difficulty telling time, so she needed a visual. So she would always set a reminder, and we actually got the one that's pictured on the screen. It's called a time timer, and she could see the red disappearing as time went by. So that made it much less anxiety provoking for her.
Evernote it's an app, right? You want to speak to Evernote? You know more about it than I do.
Evernote can be used for anything and everything. It can be your calendar, it can be your filing system, it can be a note-taking tool. Evernote is huge. The possibilities are endless, what you can do with Evernote. So there are card sets out there that you can download and add to your Evernote, depending upon what it is you're trying to do. Evernote is something that's going to take a long time to learn. So if you're thinking about using it, give yourself that time advantage. I do want to bump up one Rachel skipped over, smartwatches.
Whoops, sorry about that.
So smartwatches, nowadays, pretty much everybody has a smartphone. But if you forget your smartphone, which I call my brain, nothing happens unless it's in my phone. If you have a smartwatch, whatever you put in your phone can then be forwarded to your watch. So that's a great tool for somebody that maybe is always forgetting their phone at home or in their locker or whatever. This tool will still communicate whether your watch is with you or not. In a pinch, you can use your watch to make phone calls, which is a really neat advantage. I have a friend and coworker who is a wheelchair user, and he ran over his smartphone with his wheelchair. But he was able to call somebody to come and help him using his smartwatch. So that's just one example of how it can be used. Mindware. Mindware is a graphic organizer. You can go to it online. You can get the app, Mindware Mind Map. So that is a great visual organization tool. So if you have a big project that you're looking at and you want to break it down chunk by chunk, this is a great way to do it. It's a simple program to use. You can sort by color if that helps you to better understand. It is a pretty expensive tool. There is a fee for this one, and I want to say it runs just under $300 for an annual subscription, but you can also purchase monthly or quarterly subscriptions to Mindware.
Time timer, as we said, that's the image. This is not an app, it's a tangible item, and you actually move the red part of the timer, and that will show how much time has gone by, how much time is left.
Yep. And the Pomodoro technique is something you would do using a timer of some fashion or another. And it's just really where you break up tasks into time intervals. So for people who have difficulty focusing or staying on task, this can be beneficial in that you might decide on 20-minute blocks. So you're going to work on that project for 20 minutes, and then you're going to take a 5-minute break. And then you're going to work on it for 20 minutes. And then at the end of, I think, 3 rotations, it gives you a longer break. So it's just a great tool. You can Google Pomodoro technique, and there is a lot of information out there on this as well.
Our next slide has some dressing aids. We put this on there because when it comes to employment, there's interviewing or there's uniforms, and so having some of this stuff available can be really helpful for those with disabilities. The first on our list is the one-handed button tool, which is pictured. So the way you would use this is you would put that wire part of the button tool through your buttonhole, and then grasp the button in between in the hole that's in the wires, and then you would pull it through and it will button your shirt for you.
So this is a great tool for somebody that only has the use of one hand. And there's also a zipper pull on the other end of that buttonhole tool.
And also great for folks who maybe have trouble using their fingers to pinch things and can't quite get the button to go into the buttonhole.
Yeah, you can see this is actually, it's hard to tell in the picture, but that handle will fill all of my hand. So it's a good size, hefty tool that somebody that has limited finger dexterity can really hold on to well.
Mm-hmm. And as Laurie mentioned, on the other side of that buttonhole tool is the zipper pull. So what you do is you take that hook and you hook it into the little hole that's in your zipper, and you can use that to pull your zipper up or down.
Mm-hmm. There's also magnetic clothing out there. For those of you that haven't seen it, it is really cool. Tommy Hilfiger has a really big line of magnetic clothing. Mm-hmm. So it is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of snaps or buttons, it's magnets, and you put it on and it closes up quickly, and it's easy to remove at the same time, but it feels sturdy, like not like you're going to lose half your shirt or something like that. So magnetic clothing is a good thing to look at if you do have difficulty dressing as well.
Mm-hmm. Next we have a dressing stick. This might be a little bit difficult to explain. So it's a stick that has a number of hooks on it, and they're there for different reasons. And so this could help get a sweater over one arm, or pull pants up or down. What I would highly recommend is checking out either some YouTube videos or getting connected with an AT specialist who knows how they work, because they can be really helpful. It's a little difficult to explain without showing.
OTs, I think, probably have the most experience with dressing sticks. So it's really for somebody who has limited range of motion. If you aren't able to use one arm, it acts in a way like another hand. It's an extension of your hand that does work. So anyway, it's a good tool to use. And last but not least that we have listed is the sock aid. So a sock aid is basically a piece of metal, plastic tubing. It's a half circle, if you will, with a string on it. So you put the sock on the tubing, and then you can put it on the floor and slide your foot into it. And it has strings. So you pull the strings and it pulls your sock into place. So that's another great tool for somebody who maybe can't bend at the waist. That would definitely alleviate that concern.
So next we have some alternative writing options.
We have the pen again. So the pen again is pictured on the bottom left. There's 4 pictures and it's the bottom left. So this pen is, I would say, approximately about 4 inches in length. It has a button so that you can retract the ink nib. But this is great for somebody that needs to hold on, that has difficulty again with grip. It allows that loop end rests on your finger, and it just secures it so that maybe your handwriting isn't as shaky and it's a little bit neater.
Next we have weighted pens. Again, could be utilized at school or in the workplace. Basically what they are is they're pens that have extra weight to them. They're just a heavier pen. Can help with folks who experience tremors, and keep their handwriting less shaky, more smooth.
Yeah. And same goes for pen and pencil grips. So top left is an example of a pencil grip. Same thing, it just stabilizes the writing implement in your hand.
And again, that particular pencil grip can help for those who do have trouble with pinching, because your fingers slide right into those holes, and you don't need to pinch your fingers at all. The pencil will stay in your hand. Left-handed writing tools. So there's a couple pens that are designed for those who are left-handed. As you know, folks who are left-handed tend to have to hold their hand above where they're writing, or sometimes the palm part of their hand will smear through what they've already written. And so there's pens that are designed to help avoid that. We also have left-handed notebooks that the spirals are on the other side of the notebook. And so that spiral is not then in their way as they're trying to write.
I still struggle with the concept of the left-handed notebook. I guess it's because I'm a righty. And then raised line paper. So there's a picture of it in the top right, but you really need to feel this one to understand. Each of the lines, they're more solid than on regular lined paper, and they're also raised from the paper. So this can help somebody with a visual impairment. And this could also help somebody that struggles with their handwriting, that just wants to do better. Having that raised line helps them keep things neater.
Next we have Irlen overlays. Laurie's our pro in this, so I'm going to let her take it away.
Irlen overlays and highlighters. So pictured on the bottom are Irlen overlays, and what they are, if anybody remembers transparencies from back in the day, they're basically clear sheets of plastic. They're different color. On one side it's shiny and the other side it's matte. So what these can do, they can help improve print clarity, they can reduce eye strain and fatigue, and they can eliminate headaches and improve your comprehension. Obviously, if your eyes are getting tired or you're getting headaches from reading, it's going to be harder for you to understand what it is that you're reading. So this would definitely help with that. I have also seen people use these overlays on their computer monitors. They do have some static energy to them, so they will cling to a monitor. But there is also an app that you can get, software that you can download. It's only $12.99, and it will do the same thing as the overlays. Claro Screen Ruler is what it's called. It's a great program. You can create windows or lines. So some people have difficulty staying on line or dropping down lines. So you can create a ruler or a window and just scroll through the page. Highlighters, which are on the top right. These are a great tool again for somebody that has difficulty staying online. The colored strips in the middle are see-through, and the gray strips on the outside are not. They're opaque. So it's just a window to read a line. And what is great about these, they're very convenient because you can just leave it in your book and use it as a bookmark.
So a few things to keep in mind. Colleges that receive federal funding are required to provide equal access for all students. So this is tricky in the way that they word it, because it doesn't mean that they're required to provide your device of choice. It means that they're required to provide something equivalent to that device to meet that need.
Right. Yep. So that's basically the first and third bullet of that slide. So the second bullet, most colleges have an Office of Disability Accommodations program that provides services to students with disabilities. If you are planning on going to college and you have a disability that affects your ability to learn or comprehend or take notes, whatever the case may be, get to know this person. They're going to be instrumental in your success.
Do you want me to read the last one too? Colleges and universities are not required by law to provide the tool of your choice. They only need to provide a tool that allows for equal access, which is kind of what I mentioned earlier.
Disability accommodations in college require your documentation, so your IEP or 504. That will definitely be helpful in planning accommodations moving forward.
All assessments should be no more than 3 years old. They're going to look at things that are current, and 3 years is kind of the limit there.
Students compete for admission and must be otherwise qualified without consideration of disability. So that means you're getting in there on your own merit and ability.
Students participate in the general curriculum of the college. So this is really different. This is one of those big changes that we talked about earlier and why it's really important to know your disability, know what accommodations you might need. Because whereas in high school, where you can have a more specific curriculum to your learning, in college, that is not the case. So knowing what you need and the way that you learn is crucial for this bullet point.
Right. Instructors are not required to alter content or goals of their course, which is basically just tagging on to what Rachel just said.
And it's all up to you. We pointed out a few of these earlier, but again, the importance of self-disclosure. It's just so important to receive any sort of services. It's important to disclose.
Yeah, in high school, college is a completely different world than high school. So in high school, they are legally required to provide services. Colleges are not unless you request those accommodations. So it's just a different world where that self-advocacy and self-disclosure piece really is very, very important. Take initiative for meeting with the developmental services. What's the last S for? Developmental services offices and instructors. Again, the better you know these people, the easier it will be for you to talk to them when you do need an accommodation or you do need to explain your situation, whatever that may be. Even if it's my homework's going to be late, they're a lot more likely to hear and understand from somebody who's willingly communicated with them right from the start. Oh. Instructors receive only a brief summary of your disability in an accommodation letter. So schools are very mindful. They give the bare bones minimum that they need to give to allow the accommodation to occur without disclosing too much information about a disability. Students are graded by the same standard as any other student, regardless of how they provide their work. And assert yourself. Make sure you create your own success.
Our next two slides are images of a little comic that we found that talks about advocating for accommodations. So we have, first we have an image of a student taking a test, and the little communication block says time's up. And it goes to him and another friend talking over the table, and it says, "Ugh, I had an exam today that I didn't finish. I was feeling so anxious and I just couldn't focus, and now I'm going to fail the class." And the next student says, "Sometimes I have trouble focusing too, so I'm allowed to take breaks during class and tests." Really? How does that happen? So we'll go to the next slide. And the student says, "I get accommodations through the school's Office of Disability Services. I thought those were only for people who use wheelchairs and stuff." And this is where it gets good. "Accommodations are for people with any type of disability. I get what's called broken time during exams so I can take a short break and chill. Bro, if I didn't have accommodations during my first semester, I would have flunked out of school. For real, how can I get accommodations?" Oh, it's blurry. What does it say? "Call CDS and they'll tell you what you need." And he says, "I'll contact them tomorrow."
Yeah, so that's a good example of how that conversation has played out in many instances, I'm sure. But we do want to tell you a little bit about the Vermont Assistive Technology Program. So we work basically in conjunction with them. Rachel and I, again, serve only transition-age youth with disabilities. The Vermont Assistive Technology Program provides services to anyone birth to 110 that requires services. So what those services look like, general information and assistance. If you just need help explaining something or locating something, you can call the 800 number that's listed on the bottom of the screen. If there's some piece of equipment out there that you want to know how to use, if it'll work for you, you can reach out to the Assistive Technology program and they will do demos of tools that they have in their inventory. And if it's something you think you want to try, we always advise try before you buy. So it is essentially a big lending library of equipment and tools. You can take out any piece of AT, for the most part, any piece of AT for 30 days. You can even sign up for those loans online on the website provided, whether or not you've had a demo. You can create an account on there, and the Assistive Technology program will ship to you via UPS and include a return label so you can send the items back at the end of your 30-day loan period. The AT reuse program, so that is for the public and schools. So basically, it is a database where people can share equipment that they have that they're no longer needing. It can be to give away or it can be for sale. We're going to talk more about funding in a little bit, but it also includes information on alternative funding. And just a little bit about the centers themselves. They have over 2,400 items in inventory. And so there are 3 in the state of Vermont. One is in Burlington at UVM Mann Hall at CDCI. One is in Waterbury at the main state office complex. And one is in Rutland at the VR office in the state building there. The advantage of having these 3 tryout centers to cover the state is that they're able to share inventory. So if you should be served out of Waterbury because you live in Barry, but they don't have the tool that you're looking for, Rutland can send it to you as well. So that's a pretty nice feature of that. And as I said earlier, you can create a free account to request loans online, and we ship for free. There's no cost to you for the demo or the loan. Our website is listed on the bottom of the page, www.vt.at4all.com.
So we have some funding sources that VATP recommends. The first is the Opportunities Credit Union, and they offer some low interest loans for the purchase of AT in Vermont.
The Sue Williams Freedom Fund. This is grant funding to support AT for independent living.
The Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Are they just located in Montpelier?
At least
I think so. So yeah, for folks who have a visual impairment or are blind can access them.
Children with special health needs. They provide resources and services for Vermont children, which they qualify birth to age 21, that have complex health conditions.
And the Lions Club International Foundation. For any additional information you'd like about these sources, you can visit the website listed below.
Or if you have difficulty with that website, Google Vermont Assistive Technology and funding, and you will be brought right to that specific page.
Does anyone have any questions? I mean, please feel free to type them and we'll see them. We have one question here. It says, my daughter's reluctant to use AT because she doesn't want to appear different. Any suggestions? This is kind of where the broadness of AT could be really helpful. So as we know, having an iPad or a tablet or a smartphone is it's what our youth are using. And so for a situation, say like someone who needs a timer, rather than using the time timer, you could download an app on one of these devices and use your timer that way. So if this is a concern, we as AT specialists definitely take that into consideration and try and find something that's low key.
Another question we have here is, my daughter loves to play games on her iPad, but isn't very interested in using it to help her in school. What can I do? So there's a couple of things. First, I would say my preference is that if somebody has an iPad for games and they are expected to use an iPad for their academics, I would advise that those are two separate items. The reason being that if all your games are on the same iPad where you're trying to get your schoolwork done, there is a constant distraction right in front of you at your hands. So I would try to avoid that if possible. I know that's a really expensive suggestion. Hey, but there are funding sources that we just discussed. So that's another thing to consider. And it might be a size thing. I've worked with several students who didn't like carrying the iPad around because it can be heavy and clunky, but the mini is hardly bigger than a smartphone. So that hasn't been a good replacement item for a regular iPad for some. So I would say dig deeper. What about it doesn't she like to use in school? Why doesn't she like to bring it to school? And see if you can come to a midpoint there.
Another question we have, can a parent visit an AT tryout center in Vermont for help in identifying AT that would be helpful for the young adult and family at home? And the at home is bold. Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, AT can be used for any aspect of life, and at home is included in that.
This is a really good question. If a student has an individualized education program with goals that can only be met with AT, who provides and pays for the AT? So a good rule of thumb is if it's for high school curriculum access, then it needs to be paid for by the school or supervisory union. Otherwise, we're supplanting education dollars. A couple more questions here.
The school wants my son to use the AT device that they have available rather than get him what he really needs. What can I do? Ooh.
Well, it depends, first of all, on the school, right?
Right.
If it's college, then that's the reality. That is the answer. But if it's high school, it's really going to depend on some self-advocacy skills.
It depends on self-advocacy. It depends on the case that you can build. And what I would suggest is finding a feature of that specific device that's crucial to the child's learning. And then that way you can push for it based on that those one or two features that the device that you prefer has rather than what they're providing.
Next question. Who is qualified to conduct an assistive technology evaluation of a student? So, supervisory unions, there are some in the state of Vermont that have ATs. In the state of Vermont, we have the three tryout centers that are all managed by tryout center managers who are assistive technology specialists. Assistive technology access specialists. So you can contact them and they can do the thorough evaluation. And that was on the slide that was provided before with the VATP information, their contact information there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so last question, can I contact you if I have other questions about your presentation? Of course you can.
Both our email address and telephone numbers are listed on the first or towards the beginning and this last page of the presentation. So
I want to thank Laurie and Rachel for being here today. They traveled a distance to get here. We really appreciate their time and knowledge. Also want to remind everybody that we're going to save this webinar on our website. which is VermontFamilyNetwork.org. And we also have a YouTube channel. We have more than 90 webinars there for you to take a look at. If you want to keep track of all of our upcoming webinars, our upcoming annual conference, you can just either sign up for our e-newsletter by visiting our website or just visit our website now and again. So thanks again for joining us and have a great day.